that the government was creating a mass production of sleeper cells in America through the use of hypnosis in media, food, video games, movies and television, and pornography. Okay, if you know what I mean when I say pornography. If you don't know what a sleeper cell is, I'll have to go into what MK Ultra is. And MK Ultra is a huge project or multiple projects that was conducted in the United States as well as China and Russia, and I believe Nazi Germany as well, of course. But I'm specifically going to be talking about America. But there were mind control projects, behavioral modification projects that were done via the military and the government as well as the CIA. And basically, these mind control products would use hypnosis, electric shock therapy, torture, sexual torture, and mind splitting to basically program people into becoming sleeper cells and perfect soldiers. They wanted their perfect soldier, especially because in the 40s and 50s, 40s through the 60s, America and the world was in intense warfare at the time. And so they wanted their perfect soldier, and they saw, at least America saw China, and they saw Russia, and they were like, well, we need our own American perfect soldiers. And so what they would do is they would purposely create alters in people's personalities by shattering and splitting the personality through torture, trauma, and all these other things, drugs, LSD and stuff. And they would shatter one's mind and personality, creating alters, and they would create and manipulate these alters into whatever it is that they desired, a perfect soldier. So in these alters, they would also program information and intel. That way, if the enemy were to capture these soldiers, they would not be able to get the intel unless they knew the trigger word that would unlock the information and trigger the alter to come into prominence. And so that is MK Ultra, and they would again create sleeper cells through MK Ultra. A sleeper cell is basically a dormant spy, a clandestine spy that would be programmed with intel and information. It typically was usually it's military intel and information. So they would program people with military information and intel through MK Ultra, programming them, and then they would send them off to enemy territory to basically blend into their society. And again, sleeper cells. Most of the time, they didn't even know that they were programmed. They didn't even know that they were sleeper cells. They had no clue that they were secret agents. And so the military or the government will basically send these sleeper cells, these programmed individuals, to enemy territory to spy on the enemy and gather intel on the enemy. And a lot of times, they were also programmed to fulfill espionage, terrorism, and all sorts of diabolical things. And so here's the thing. I definitely believe that the government has been producing mass sleeper cells through the hypnotism of the masses. I believe the government is hypnotizing the masses through music, television, video games, food, and pornography. What we have to understand is that music has tons of subliminal messaging and data, and people listen to music and they don't even know that they're receiving data and information and are being subliminally programmed, as well as television. Television is subliminally programming people because they have loads and loads of data and intel and subliminal messaging. Same thing with it's hard to prove it with food, but well, actually no, because I believe that they've been putting nanotechnology in our food, whatever. But they do this with music, they do this with food, they do this with pornography. Pornography is a huge hypnotic department in which people are becoming sexual sleeper cells. They are being hypnotized and programmed sexually by the voyeuristic viewing of pornography materials. A lot of the people in the pornography industry are unfortunately trafficked individuals and such that also are MK Ultra experiments. And so we're seeing this, they're doing this to the masses, and most of the masses has no clue that they are being programmed and they are being used as sleeper cells. And I believe that the Antichrist is the big handler. Basically, the Antichrist, I believe, is the big handler over the masses, and that when the Antichrist reveals himself, he's going to trigger and activate wake up basically the sleeper cells who have been hiding in society, who didn't even know that they were secret agents because they've been programmed all these years by media, food, television, pornography, and other things. And so we've got to break out of this hypnotic spell that the government has consistently tried to put us all in. We have to break free, get deliverance from hypnosis, governmental MK Ultra hypnosis, governmental mind control manipulation, because if not, when the Antichrist does show himself, there's going to be mass hysteria, and there's going to be mass destruction and espionage, and this is going to be people. There's going to be people who will be like, why is my brother doing all this? He was an innocent person. He never did anything like this. And you're going to see people that you love doing the most egregious, ridiculous things, horrible things. And you're going to look at him like he would never do anything like this. And you're right. He would never do anything like this, or she would never do anything like this. But because they've been programmed without realizing it, through the video games, through the movies, through the music, and all these things, everything is violent now. Music is violent. The video games are violent. Everything is violent. The pornography is violent. All of this is violence. It's priming people to become violent. And when the Antichrist reveals himself, and the handler, I'm going to call the Antichrist the handler because he's the ultimate handler. When the ultimate handler clicks his fingers, mass hysteria will be experienced. People that you love and know are going to be doing things, and you're like, what is he doing? Well, he's been primed and programmed to do this through the rap, the violent music, the nasty, prolific, disgusting, sexually deviant music. People can be committing sexual acts of deviancy, and you'd be like, he would never do, or she would never do anything like that, but they've been programmed and been put under hypnotic sexual spells, and they've been, just consuming this stuff for decades, and you think that that's just going through one eye and out the other, one ear and out the other. No, that stuff is accumulating, and I believe that that's what is causing for many of the masses to become sleeper cells, and they don't even realize it. And when that handler, the ultimate handler, wakes people up, mass hysteria, the purge will occur. Now, I share all this not to instill fear or fear-mongering. That's not what I do. That's not my heart. I share all this to empower you to desire deliverance and healing. Get deliverance. Deliverance is daily. It is the children's bread, and God requires that his saints live in holiness and in wholeness. And so if you are addicted to pornography, if you are addicted to drugs, if you are addicted to music, if you're addicted to food, endeavor to break free and get the deliverance and healing, because those are things that the Antichrist will use to literally cause mass hysteria and purging in the masses. And so break free from those addictions, those ties. I know me personally, I never really had an addictive personality, but I did like playing video games and watching television. I used to really love anime. I used to like video games. I'm pretty dorky, so I like stuff like that. But over time, God had truly told me to come off of those things that you would think are innocent, things that you would think that, like, what's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. You're just being religious. No. If you are in a season where God is telling you to come off of that, come off of that, come off of that, it's for a reason, because he knows what's coming. He knows what's coming. And so I share all this not to instill fear, but to empower you to become whole and delivered.